Do you know the size of your gloopy mess? The typical Australian produces a staggering 2.7 tonnes of waste every year. This weighs about as much as a car and a caravan. Every Australian, every single year. What a waste. So much of what we throw away contains valuable materials that could be used again and again. Getting started on a zero waste journey is within everyone's reach. There's no special technology required, no change to government regulation or services. You can even continue to live a comfortable life in an apartment or family home. Today, I'll share with you my 3 steps for getting started on a zero waste journey. Step 1, know your recycling. I mean, really know your recycling. The typical Australian bin contains 10% of materials that actually should have been in the recycling bin but were not correctly sorted. Did you know that actually aluminium spray cans, once empty, straight in your recycling bin? Magazines, including the staples, straight into your recycling bin. Many people are also surprised to learn that your recycling doesn't need to be squeaky clean, just empty and dry. So, a peanut butter jar, scrape it out, make sure it's clean, and then into the recycling bin. A pizza box, a little bit of cheese and some crumbs, no problem. Straight into your recycling bin. A jam jar, scrape it out, a little rinse, no need to put it in the dishwasher. Straight into your recycling bin. You could save that extra 10% off your gloopy mess by really getting your recycling sorted. So ask that question every time you put something into the bin. Should this be recycled? Not sure? Check out your local government advice online. In Canberra, we have a fabulous resource called a Recyclopedia. It lists everything that can and can't be recycled. But wait, there's one more part to knowing your recycling. It's about soft plastics. Have you heard of RedCycle? They're an Australian company that collect soft plastics to transform them into children's play equipment, outdoor equipment, and more. There are hundreds of collection points around the country. In Canberra, we have 22 collection points in supermarkets, Coles and Woolworths. Typically, soft plastics are about 10% of your bin as well. So what is a soft plastic? Well, there's a highly technical Scrunch test. This plastic bag here is a soft plastic because it passes the Scrunch test. I can scrunch it up like this, and then it goes back to its original shape. It doesn't bend or break. These other items are also soft plastics. This one here, fruit and vegetable bag, straight to RedCycle. Now this, what looks like aluminium foil, is actually soft plastic. Straight to RedCycle. And this bag here, that feels like fabric, is actually soft plastic. So, straight to RedCycle with the rest. All in all, really knowing your recycling can shave 20% off your gloopy mess. That's 10% from getting the most out of your curbside recycling, and a further 10% by taking your soft plastics to RedCycle. Totally doable. Time for step 2. Step 2 is about organic waste and taking it out of your garbage bin. Now, organic waste includes food from your kitchen, like leftovers, apple cores, and waste from your garden, like lawn clippings and leaves. It doesn't belong in landfill because in landfill, it breaks down to create methane, a potent greenhouse gas. So I'll give you 4 options for dealing with that waste. Share your waste. Crazy idea, right? No. Welcome to the world of technology. Share Waste is an Australian-developed app that connects people who have excess kitchen scraps with people who need those scraps for their compost or their chickens. There are more than 30,000 people who've joined the Share Waste community. In Canberra alone, there are more than 50 places where people have signed up to take other people's kitchen scraps. Incredible. If technology is not your thing, well, pop down to your local community garden. Most community gardens will take kitchen scraps by arrangement. Bokashi bucket. Bokashi technology was developed in South Korea, and it's a bucket that sits neatly underneath your kitchen sink. It takes your kitchen scraps. At the end of each day, you simply sprinkle on the Bokashi enzyme, press it down, and 4 to 6 weeks later, voila, an incredible soil, just perfect for balcony pot plants or for giving away to friends. A worm farm. These beautiful critters take almost all your kitchen scraps. You'll need to leave a few things out though. They can be fussy. You'll need to leave out citrus, onions, dairy, and meat. They also need their food chopped up because those tiny little mouths won't fit around a large broccoli stalk. Well worth the effort though, because these worms will produce an incredible liquid fertiliser and a beautiful moist soil. And finally, if you have a decent backyard space, consider a compost. Compost will take anything that once lived. Yes, anything. So not just your food scraps from the kitchen, but also hair, scraps of cloth, and waste from your garden, bones, yes, anything. The key to success with a compost is layering, 2 parts green to 1 part brown. So 4 options for taking that kitchen waste out of your gloopy mess. You've got share your waste, a Bokashi bucket, a worm farm, and a compost. Now, all in all, your organic waste is typically 40% of a typical Australian's bin. 10% of that is your garden organics, which in Canberra, by the way, we have a collection service for. And the other 30% is that kitchen waste. So if we can take all of our organic waste out of our bin to landfill, we'll be saving 40% off our waste to landfill, 40% less gloopy mess. And it is pretty gloopy, that organic waste. Add that together with the 20% saving that we had already from step 1, and incredible, 60% off our gloopy mess from steps 1 and 2, a huge achievement. Time for step 3. Now, step 3 is about using those principles of avoid, reduce, and reuse to take you all the way to zero. It's actually a bunch of mini steps. It's a step that's most tailored to your life. So here's an example from mine. My husband bakes incredible sourdough bread. There's a loaf. He started out using baking paper to line the tray and asked the question, can I reuse that baking paper? And it turned out he could. In fact, he could reuse it 3 times before he needed to get some new baking paper. He then asked the question, can I avoid baking paper altogether? And it turns out he can. He simply sprinkles a light dusting of flour on the tray and pops it in the oven, voila, this incredible sourdough loaf, zero waste. I'll now share 3 powerful ideas with you for taking your life through those avoid, reduce, and reuse steps. The first one's a little radical. Hold on to your hats. Buy nothing new. Yes, you heard correctly. Buy nothing new. Take it as a challenge for a week, a month, or a year. My family lasted 3 months, and we finished our challenge finally when we needed shoes for our children. But it taught us really valuable lessons about the true value of buying things when we saw it or when we needed it. It added friction to every purchase that we make. It helps us to ask the question, do I need that now? Do I need it new? Do I need it at all? An example, I was out of pens in my home office and committed to buying nothing new. Instead of popping down the shops and buying some new pens, I rummaged through the back of my cupboard. Voila, a whole stash of pens. In fact, years later, we are still living off that stash of pens. Another example, we needed a new family tent. So we did our research, and then I checked online through Gumtree, and I found just the tent we wanted, half the retail price, one suburb away. Incredible. Tackle textiles. Now, textiles are 5 to 10% of a typical Australian bin. It's huge. Learn to sew, so you can sew on a button or mend a hem or repair a piece of clothing. Try buying secondhand, either in a boutique or a charity store. Host a clothes swap party and be sure to invite the people who dress the way you wish you were dressing. And if you do buy new when it comes to clothing, buy good quality, clothing that will last. Avoid single-use plastics. Simply say no to straws. Coffee cups, bring your own reusable cup, or sit down and take an extra 10 minutes to enjoy the ambience at your favourite cafe. Take your own drink bottle. Bring your own bags to the shops, including produce bags. Shop naked. Now, not what all of you were thinking. I mean, choose fruit and vegetables that are not wrapped in plastic, and shop in bulk food stores, yeah, where you can get almost everything without the packaging. And if you do need to shop and have a single-use plastic, see if you can turn it into a multiple-use plastic, the way my grandma did. She would take her cling wrap, use it, wash it, hang it on the line, and use it again, and again, and again. So 3 fabulous ideas for looking at those principles of avoid, reduce, and reuse. Buy nothing new, tackle textiles, and avoid single-use plastics. So we've come a long way on this journey. Through step 1, knowing our recycling. Step 2, taking organic waste out of our bin to landfill. And step 3, taking it all the way to zero, using those principles of avoid, reduce, and reuse. We have the knowledge. Now it's time for action. I invite you to take a moment to reflect on one thing you'll do differently to take your next step on a zero waste journey. Right. Is there anything that might get in the way of you taking that step? Do you need to have a conversation with your partner or teenage child about sorting the recycling? Do you need to find space in your home to store those soft plastics before you take them into RedCycle? Do you need to purchase or source a worm farm, bokashi bucket, or compost? Do you need to find a buddy who'll keep you honest and motivated for change? Right now, in my home, we've set ourselves a challenge of reducing our gloopy mess every year. There are 3 adults and 2 children. We produce about, or just under, half a kilo of gloopy mess each week, adding up to about 25 kilos of waste to landfill gloopy mess each year. We're just an ordinary family in an ordinary suburban home, taking our zero waste journey one step at a time. In fact, I think that's the key to success. Taking the journey one step at a time. Feeling good about the things you do, not guilty about the things you don't. A drop of water is small until it joins with a mighty ocean. And the tide for zero waste living is rising. It's a tide that will sweep away old concepts of rubbish and bring with it new ideas about the true value of materials and their use and reuse again and again. Now is a fantastic time for us to reduce our gloopy mess.